What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Party on Broad. Guys, if you are a Penn State fan or an Ohio State fan, we have the show for you. We are breaking down the top 10 players, prospects in the Big Ten for the 2024 NFL Draft. Joining me, my man Ryan at Philly Sports PSA on Twitter, of Philly Sports Alliance. Go check them out, subscribe, all that awesome stuff. What's up, Ryan?
Not much, man. Ready to talk a little Big Ten today. We got, lots of Ohio State, lots of Penn State. It's exciting to see the future prospects here coming up next year for the draft. Loving it.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, if you're watching us, be sure to check out our show last week when we covered our top 10 prospects in the SEC, especially if you're an Eagles fan, because there's a lot of Bama and Georgia prospects there that the Eagles will be looking at in 2024. But leading off, number one, he is, no surprise, Marvin Harrison Jr., a wide receiver out of Ohio State. Look at all that red and blue. We'll be talking a lot about this. 70% of this show is Ohio State and Penn State. And we'll do some honorable mentions. But let's talk about Marvin Harrison Jr., one of the best wide receiver prospects I have seen since Calvin Johnson. Back in 2007, 6'4", 205 pounds, makes separating look easy. His ability as a catcher is unmatched. He's the son of Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison Sr., has all the size and athleticism you're looking for in a wide receiver one in the NFL, man. An elite catcher, great hands, great route runner. Nobody wins one-on-ones better than Marvin Harrison Jr. And on top of the elite measurables, like we say, he's got production to match. He's the only unanimous first-team All-American in Ohio State history, and also the only Buckeye receiver ever with three touchdown games, man. The dude is nuts, man. What are your thoughts on Marvin Harrison Jr., Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I think if he would have come out this past year, he would have easily been the number one wide receiver prospect as well. So it's no shock that he is tops of our board here. He can just make all the plays. And he is, you just look at him and you see the athleticism, the skill, the intelligence on the field. Obviously the apple didn't fall too far from the tree there. So I can't wait for him to get into the NFL. He is going to be exciting. He's going to be kind of, in the ilk of some of the young wide receivers we have in the NFL, the Justin Jeffersons, the Jamar Chases, and Waddles and Smith. He's going to be easily in that realm when he comes into the NFL. He's just exciting. There's nothing else to say. When he's on the field, it's just pure excitement.
He does everything well. And that's what's amazing about him. TikTok Remix says, who is he compared to? He looks like AJ Green, kind of that like Plexico Burris build, like a guy that's just going to be a red zone, elite red zone threat from day one. Like I said, he can do everything well. He's one of the best prospects since Calvin Johnson. He's terrific. Maybe since Randy Moss. I don't know. He's that elite blue chip guy. Through and through, top three all the way. Number one wide receiver, obviously, on my board. Let's jump into our number two here as I get our graphics up. Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle out of Penn State. Man, this guy is an absolute beast. Another potential top 5, top 10 pick in 2024. He was a projected first rounder in this year's draft, 2023, but opted to return to Penn State to get his master's degree, excels in the classroom, but most notably in pass protection. He's one of the best pass protecting offensive tackles in the draft. His 84.7 pass blocking grade was 6th among Power 5 tackles, did not surrender a sack, and only allowed one hit on 281 pass blocking snaps in 2022. He's got everything you're looking for athletically, 6'6", 309 pounds, great frame, great length, good feet. I think this guy is built to play left tackle at the next level. He is my offensive tackle number one in this class, just a little bit ahead of Joe Alt. who I think both of those guys have top 10 potential in 2024. But what are your thoughts on Olu Fashanu?
Yeah, he's definitely my number one offensive tackle this year, and there's a few, as you said, you mentioned Alt. There's also Latham from Alabama. So there's definitely some competition up there, but he definitely is the clear number one in my eyes. He just is, to me, the perfect size, 6'6", like he's about 320, and he's super athletic, mobile, flexible. He absolutely, can match up against some, very athletic pass rushers. Everything that I've ever, anything I've ever read about him, they always mention his hands, and they say, whenever you get the moniker of violent hands, that's a good sign for an offensive lineman. Yeah. And he, boy, does he have it. And yeah, he is absolutely the centerpiece on that offensive line for Penn State. And again, I just easily think the transition to the NFL at left tackle is going to be an easy one for him. Should it be an easy top 10 pick for a team that clearly needs, a corner piece on the offensive line here. Yeah, like I said, I can't say enough about his athleticism and the fact that he's a big dude. He is a big dude, 6'6", 320, plus the athleticism. It's a really nice and rare combination for sure.
Yeah, really hyped to watch him protect the blind side for Drew Allar in 2023, man. I was surprised he returned to school. That shows the maturity. I know school is really big with his family. Just wish him nothing but the most health ever, because that is a risky move. Because I thought that guy was going to be arguably a top 10, top 15 pick in this year's draft, because it was, Paris Johnson, Skoronski. Those are solid offensive tackles, but I thought Fashanu he had the production to match to get that talk once the draft process started. I thought he would crush it. So we're only in wait and see mode, but let's move on to number 3. I think the top 2 are your blue chip guys. After number 2, I think we get into some discussion about who should be number 3. For me personally, I went Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State, man. This guy is awesome, especially if you're an Eagles fan. There's one to watch out for moving forward, because he offers a lot of the things that we loved about a previous Ohio State wide receiver that was drafted this year. He was the second most valuable Power 5 receiver in 2022, according to PFF's win above average metric. The only one more valuable was his teammate, Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think while he was in Harrison Jr.'s shadow, there's nothing secondary about this dude, especially when it comes to stats. 74 catches, over 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, just off Harrison's pace last year. Ranked 6th nationally in receiving yards. Harrison ranked 6th nationally in receiving yards. Egbuka ranked 9th. So he's a smooth route runner. He has some similarity to Jackson Smith and Jigba, but I think Egbuka is a little more physical. 6'1", 205 pounds, great separator, great short area agility, great change of direction. He's a great prospect. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, it's funny because Ohio State just is seemingly just printing wide receivers at this point. And yeah, I feel like for him, you have him on any other major team, and he's clear cut number one. Obviously, behind Marvin Harrison. Yeah, he kind of can get a little lost, but like you said, he may have been in the shadow, but he still produced quite a bit. So the fact that he was able to do that with Harrison being such a great prospect just shows that this kid is something special. And I think he deserves to have his own, special, whatever you want to call it. But I think he could potentially be a top 10. Again, depending on needs of the teams in the draft, he certainly has the skill set. He is 6'1", 205, really nice agility, speed, explosiveness, a really nice blend of all of that. And he's a great route runner. He is really good at kind of exploiting the soft zones in the coverage, and just has just this natural ability to get open. So I again, I think he if is right behind Marvin Harrison. Obviously, Harrison's a great prospect, and again, like we said, one of the better ones we've seen in the last few years. But yeah, he's got to get some praise here too, because he is a very skilled wide receiver. And again, I think if he would have been out this year, he probably would have been the number one prospect over Njigba.
Yeah, I agree. I fully agree with that. You look at who is quarterbacking Ohio State in 2023. You're looking at a guy named Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. Can those guys replace a CJ Stroud? Probably not. But who knows? We'll see. He's got crazy expectations though, and weapons on the perimeter for sure with Egbuka and Harrison Jr. Man, what
I think you and I could do pretty well with those wide receivers.
Maybe you. All right. Let's roll into our number 4 prospect in the Big Ten, a guy I'm really high on, and I've seen other outlets not so high on, but I think is a sensational prospect. Kalen King, cornerback out of Penn State. This is a guy that really had a lot of production in 2022. Like you saw a lot of teams kind of stay away from Joey Porter Jr. in last season. And King saw a lot of action, man. He was one of only 3 FBS players with 20 plus passes defended. This guy has first-round potential written all over him. 5'11", 190 pounds, led all corners in the country with a PFF grade of 93.3 and an unreal 18.3 passer rating allowed in single coverage, man. So this guy was tested and he produced at an elite level, man. I think he's got natural coverage athleticism, plays with a lot of physicality and coverage and run support, man. True ball hawk that I think will also dominate in the draft process. What are your thoughts on Kalen King?
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. I think, last year people were, trying to avoid Joey Porter, and he got a lot of work, and he stepped up. And like you said, plenty of pass deflections. I think he had 3 interceptions last year. Yeah, he was absolutely, had a great season. And had a lot of work because of teams avoiding Porter. So, I really look for him to kind of take that next step this upcoming season. He seems to just have this natural coverage ability. He has good burst, good fluidity, especially changing directions, and just has a knack for the ball. Just really good ball skills. And he really, you just watch, film on him, highlights on him. He just seems to play with a passion, and that to me comes across, when seeing him play. So all those things to me, I think really add up, and definitely, when we talked about our rankings, yeah, I saw that not a ton of people had him as high, but when we kind of sat down and talked about it, it was a clear choice that, he is going to be one of the better cornerback prospects. Obviously, there's a couple already we talked about last week, but I like him, honestly. And I'm hoping he kind of builds on his season from last year and takes over Porter's kind of number 1 role. And just continues to improve. I just like him.
About how I ranked. Yeah, he's my number 2 corner in this draft. Right behind Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Yeah.
And I think McKinstry has an amazing ceiling, but I think King's right there when it comes to ceiling. So he's right behind McKinstry at this point. But again, these are way too early rankings. We'll see what it looks like.
Right. Well, I think we all saw last year, when early rankings came out, especially for, I feel like, Yeah, exactly. Eli Ricks was super up there, and Keely Ringo was super. Was really high
Yeah.
up there. The cornerback rankings, I feel like, changed a lot more than maybe some other rankings. Just again, it's just kind of one of those positions. So, yes, this is super early, but I'm hoping King kind of stays in that realm of top 5 prospects for cornerbacks. I think he will, just given his opportunity at Penn State this year.
Yeah, that defense is going to be fun, especially with Abdul Carter, who's not coming out this year, but next year he'll be in 2025 draft. Abdul Carter is like ridiculous prospect. Keep an eye out on that guy. Let's move on to number 5. Going back to Ohio State, JT Tuimoloau, edge rusher. Speaking of going after Penn State, because if you saw this guy play against Penn State, man, he's probably their most hated player in college football because he absolutely wrecked Penn State. He recorded in one game 2 sacks, 2 interceptions. One of those was returned for a touchdown, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, a tackle for loss, a batted pass, and 3 pressures in one game.
Jesus.
I made a video, a highlight reel of that, of course, and send it to all of my Penn State friends.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure they had a good day that day.
Yeah, I'm just that a-hole. But yeah, let's talk about this guy. I mean, after that Penn State game, that's when you kind of start to see the holes in this guy as a prospect. Let me get this guy's graphic up. There he is. All right, so he clearly needs to be more consistent because much of his that was like his game of the year. He only had a 67.0 PFF grade in the other 12 games per PFF. His physical tools are amazing. 6'4", 277 pounds, rare blend of size, flexibility, power, big time playmaker, as we mentioned. And he always seems to be around the football. He had 10.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 2 picks, and 4 deflections in 2022. This guy has first round potential, I think, for sure. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. Needs to be a little bit more consistent. He had obviously that big Penn State game, but kind of came up small in some other games during the season. But he's got a really good size, really nice, burst off the line, and has some good power and good power moves. So he seems to kind of have a knack for the ball. And for the quarterback, but like you said, just needs to kind of, get a little bit more consistent. I think he does have the potential to be, even a top 15 pick if his, season kind of goes the right way here, and he can kind of take, a little bit of that Penn State game and kind of put it more throughout the rest of the games of the season, but. He doesn't. His flexibility is one thing that I've heard about him, and that he needs to work on. Not the most flexible. Kind of needs to improve that bend, so to speak. And his hands again needed a little bit of improvement, but his upside is honestly just you see what he is capable of, and again you see these games, and you're like, wow, this guy is just a dominant player. He just needs to put it all together. And, again, maybe he just needs to play Penn State a couple more times and he'll be fine.
Man, that's going to be a great matchup. He's currently my edge number 2 in this class outside of Jared Verse. We haven't gotten into the ACC yet. The ACC also has a lot of elite talent. I know Ryan can't wait to talk about Clemson and his boy, Trot Jr. We'll get there. Maybe we'll do that next week. Because we also have the Pac-12. I don't really like talking about the Pac-12 when it comes to the NFL draft, but
we have too many scars.
Yes, absolutely. But got to talk about Caleb. But he's a beast. Let's roll on to number 6, and that is Johnny Newton. Defensive tackle out of Illinois, finally outside of Ohio State. It took us to number 6 to get there. But Johnny Newton, let me get his graphic up. Hold on one sec. Uh, there he is. Let's talk about Johnny Newton, man. The dude was, playing on a dominant defense back in 2022. You look at the talent, man. Devin Witherspoon, Sidney Brown, Jartavius Martin, all guys that were at the top of their position. And had he declared Johnny Newton in 2022, he probably would have been also right there, especially in a weak defensive tackle class. 6'3", 295 pounds, quick upfield penetrator, good athleticism, good twitch, relentless play style. According to Pro Football Focus, he was the highest graded interior Big Ten lineman against the run, rushing the passer, and overall. Elite production, man. He finished 2022 with 59 pressures and 13 tackles for loss or for no gain. He's just got immense amount of production and potential. What are your thoughts on Johnny Football? Johnny Football, jeez. Johnny Football.
Honestly, like you said, Illinois had a sneaky good defense last year. Newton kind of is just given his size and his just natural athleticism and ability. I feel like he should be able to play pretty much anywhere on the line. Whether it's interior or edge. He has this ability to just absolutely just destroy blockers. Really just seems to kind of just go through them at times. And a lot of that is certainly his, his flexibility, but also you can kind of sense this. He just has this motor, just real high motor, and just super super energetic on the field. So I think that kind of combined with really good hands. Again, it's a big thing that I read about him. Everybody just loves his hands, and you can kind of see it as he kind of just moves through blockers sometimes. I think he has a good potential in the NFL. Again, he's versatile, can play anywhere on that line. So I think for the right team in the NFL, he could really be one of those guys that just kind of sneaks up on you and ends up having a really good productive career in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm worried about his 2023 season, man, because you got to think about how much Illinois lost.
Right.
Man, their secondary is gutted. Who do they have at quarterback? They had their one of their best seasons ever, and this is a team that I think could potentially get picked on when it comes to Johnny Newton, because remember George Karlaftis for Purdue, he was double, triple teamed all season long, and his stats suffered for it, and his stock dropped somewhat through that season and draft process, especially when you have some casuals just looking at surface stats. I remember talking about that a lot. Illinois is kind of in a tough spot in 2023, but he's a great prospect for sure.
Yeah,
he's right there as one of my top defensive tackles in this draft. Let's roll on to number 7, and it is Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Illinois, man. I think this guy is one of the most versatile defensive backs in the entire draft, man. Amazing tape. Amazing fun watch, especially on YouTube if you're watching. This guy excels both in coverage and as a run defender, thrives in the slot. He was the only corner in the country with a PFF grade of 85 or more in coverage and run defense. His 5 interceptions tied for 4th among Power 5 corners, while his 15 run defense stops tied for the most among all FBS corners. High IQ defender, can jump routes in coverage, good size at 6'1", 209, might be best moving forward as a safety. That's a conversation we had a lot about with Keely Ringo. We'll see what happens, but it's also worth noting this playmaker also provides value on special teams, man. As a punt returner, he finished with 16.5 yards per return average, and looks like a running back in the open field. What are your thoughts on Cooper DeJean?
Yeah, I'm glad you kind of brought up the potential safety thing because I think he definitely has the skill set to make that transition. I think that'll be something to kind of keep an eye out for this season. But yeah, I like I just like his kind of knack for the ball. One of those kids that just gets it. I think kind of like. Not to compare to like somebody like Asante Samuel, but one of those where like you knew Samuel just knew where the ball was at all times, and I feel like this kid has a little bit of that sprinkled in, just that knack for getting to the ball, but also again high praise for his run support, good tackler. So I think that's going to go far for him in this process, and again, if he can kind of improve on those things. I don't see why he couldn't shoot up the board as being a top prospect for his position. So,
I'm looking at the schedule for Iowa. He's going to get tested on the outside for sure. They don't play Ohio State for sure, but like they got at Penn State there. That'll be a fun one in September. So Cooper DeJean is a good prospect. One of my top corners in this draft. Let me see where I have him ranked. DeJean is number 3, right behind Kalen King. So he's right there, man. Definitely has, I think late first round potential. And he's a ball hawk. And I think those guys kind of get, I think draft analysts, guys for NFL teams, they love them. Some ball hawks. They'll definitely kind of give that a little more weight. That is Cooper DeJean. Let's roll on to number 8. Going back to Penn State, we're talking about Chop Robinson, an edge rusher here, dominated in his first year for the Nittany Lions after transferring in from Maryland, led all Power 5 edge defenders in overall PFF grade, 90.6. And pass rushing grade at 92.4 in 2022. His 23.6 pass rush win rate was 6th best among the same group, man. Great production. He's not like the measurable guy. He's not the toolsy guy, but he wins with everything else, man. He's 6'3", and only 240 pounds. I think he should definitely, this lists him at 253. He definitely could stand to add more to his frame and more play strength. But this is definitely one of the more promising pass rushers in the Big Ten. And he needs to kind of turn, I think, some of those flashes that we saw in 2022 into more consistent play. What are your thoughts on Chop?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the knack on him is his consistency. But again, the potential. You see it for sure, and again, it's always tough when you're kind of talking, about players that still have a kind of season to, so to speak, prove themselves a little bit more. But I think he easily, seems to have the skill set, seems to have the motor, and. Honestly, I'm excited. I mean, just look at this list. I mean, how many Penn Staters do we have? It's just going to be an exciting team, and I think with so many prospects and so many great players, I think that might actually be kind of an advantage to him, as he's kind of not necessarily the top guy on the defense, and kind of can maybe kind of be in his own. Own little, world to kind of do his own thing rather than kind of people focusing a lot on him. But I think towards the end of the season that might change because he certainly is going to be known for sure. He just, again, just has really good flexibility. And I think with that defense, he's just going to, I think probably by the end of the season, he's definitely going to be one of those that they're going to have to double and triple team.
Yeah, this is Penn State's year, man. Just there's so much talent on that defense. They have potential to be the top defense right there with the top defense with like Michigan and Ohio State in the Big Ten this year. They have to be. The only like question is the question marks on offense with Drew Allar. And, Nick Singleton, I think, is an elite prospect in his own right for 2 years from now as a running back. But my gosh, like Abdul Carter, Chop Robinson coming off the edges, Kalen King in the backfield in the secondary. I mean, like they're just loaded, man. It's
Loaded.
wild.
Absolutely loaded. Yeah, this has to be their year, and man, they always seem to have that one slip up, and man, if they could just avoid that, who knows? Maybe they could be in the playoffs. So
They have a 4-star transfer cornerback coming in to replace Joey Porter Jr. named Storm Duck as well. I mean, how do you not love that name, Storm Duck?
Storm Duck. Man, these names are getting interesting. I love it.
Storm Duck.
Duck.
That's I'm not lying. He was a transfer from UNC. So pretty wild. All right, let's jump into. I lost where we were. We were at Chop Robinson at 8. Now we're going back to Ohio State, back to back here. Leading off at number 9, Michael Hall Jr. Man, defensive tackle prospect. He's one of those guys that I think has, he could be one of the big high risers because of the injuries. I mean, they were a major issue with him last year. But when on the field, man, this is a guy who lives in the backfield. I think he's going to crush the draft process with his athleticism. He is at 6'2", like 290 pounds. He's explosive. He can play the 3-tech, the 5-tech, active, violent hands off the snap. Absolute menace. Little undersized, but I think he'll be okay. He plays with natural leverage, and he's got some impressive moves already. He's got violent swims and rips. This guy, I think, has a pretty high floor as a draft prospect. I wrote in when I was watching tape as a taller Kalijah Cansey. We'll see. What are your thoughts on Michael Hall Jr.?
Yeah, that's actually not. I hadn't thought of that prior, but yeah, that's slightly taller, not by much, but yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is, he's going to be playing on a very good defensive line at Ohio State. We obviously have already talked about one of them. But, he definitely stands out. Just as you said, has really good hands, really good power, arms, really good burst, really can get and shed blocks like nothing. He really has a really nice pass rush. And, again, for a defensive tackle, it's nice to see the versatility and not only being, good in the run, but also being able to get to the quarterback. So has, again, a little bit undersized, as you said, slightly taller than Cansey. So, but you saw kind of what Cansey was, and I think he's a better prospect, at this point. So, I'd like to kind of see what he can kind of build on, especially with that defense, especially with his defensive line mates. I think he really could, put up some nice stats and really kind of help his draft prospect. But, yeah, I mean, like I said, a little bit undersized, but, not much you can kind of grow taller there. But I like him, and I really like that defensive line for Ohio State for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be their bread and butter. That's where they have to live on defense this season, because outside of that, they've got a lot of young guys and things like that. So let's roll on to number 10, sticking with Ohio State. This one was debatable. There are some other guys that we're going to be talking about, honorable mentions, but TreVeyon Henderson got number 10 here, running back out of Ohio State. Dude is an absolute beast, man. You talk about, this guy has to be an early favorite for the RB1 in the draft, man. He's a spark plug with explosiveness, really good receiver out of the backfield. He's got a dense frame, great contact balance. That's 5'10", 214 pounds. He, has the ability to offset and send defenders kind of launching with his twitch. And he also can maintain vertical speed and hit holes when needed. He is a really interesting prospect. The running back class is ridiculous in 2023. So I don't think he's like Bijan Robinson running back one.
Right.
But TreVeyon Henderson, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, like you said, especially in the Big Ten, you have some really good running backs. Yeah, he seems to kind of right now kind of being the leader of the pack for RB1 coming into this upcoming draft. I mean, he just has such an ability to accelerate. His speed, his acceleration. He's also really, really good receiver, which obviously would translate well for NFL teams who love a good receiver with their running backs. So, he has kind of a good trucking ability to kind of get through tackles, break tackles. Has good vision. I think he clearly comes in right now at RB1, obviously not like a Bijan situation, and certainly things are going to change throughout this process. But I like him. Again, he kind of considering the fact that everybody's going to be focusing on those wide receivers, I think he is going to eat this year and absolutely run wild.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So that wraps up our top 10. Again, Marvin Harrison Jr., number 1, Olu Fashanu, number 2, Emeka Egbuka, number 3, Kalen King, cornerback, number 4, JT Tuimoloau, number 5, Johnny Newton out of Illinois, number 6, Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Iowa, number 7, Chop Robinson, one of my favorites, edge rusher out of Penn State at number 8, Michael Hall Jr., defensive tackle, Ohio State at number 9, and then TreVeyon Henderson, running back. And I'm going to lead off with our honorable mentions because I'm going to go with this dude. And, this guy paired with a couple other running backs for Michigan like Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, man, that has the making of one of the best offenses in college football. J.J. McCarthy is a quarterback prospect with really intriguing upside. He's a guy that I'm not really sure about yet, to be honest, because his flashes are really impressive. You saw him last year, man. This guy had, 5? He thrives out of structure. That's what kind of is the narrative with a lot of these top quarterback prospects like Caleb Williams and Drake May. McCarthy's right there, man. He needs to improve his consistency. He had 4 games in 2022 with sub 60 PFF grades. He's a lean 6'3", but again, elite creation capacity as a threat on the ground, sneaky athleticism. That JJ McCarthy and his tools, I think, are worth mentioning as my honorable mention. I can't wait to see what he's got. Do you have an honorable mention?
I'm actually gonna go with another Ohio State guy.
Okay.
To add to the list. I'm gonna go with Denzel Burke, corner from Ohio State, 6 foot, 189. It certainly had some inconsistencies over his last few seasons, but I think some stability with the defensive staff should certainly help. He really showed a lot of potential. Pass breakups, nose for the ball, and I think he kind of just has this ability to stick with his man. You really see a lot of that where he's like glue. But again, he's a work in progress. He's got to work on some things, show a little bit more consistency. He is a really good tackler, which for a corner is certainly something you want to see. I think maybe right now he might not be getting some of the love, but I think as the NFL draft kind of comes closer and we really start getting into the weeds of it all, I think he's a name that's going to rise up really quickly. and be in the talks for a top 5 corner in the NFL coming in.
Love it. One more honorable mention: Brevin Spanford, a tight end out of Minnesota. I think is going to have a monster year in 2023. Definitely a name to keep an eye out for Minnesota. But that wraps up our top 10 Big Ten prospects. Loaded class this year. Should be a really good season in the Big Ten. Stay tuned to Party on Broad because next week we will take on the ACC and get kind of gush over some linebackers. Some fun ones in that group for sure. Ryan, where can we find you, man?
You can check me out Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, right here at Philly Sports PSA on Twitter, or just search Philly Sports Alliance. Just putting out shows, talking sports, doing our thing. Facebook's probably the best way. That way you can not only get all the PSA shows, but you get all of the Edge of Philly Sports shows coming through as well. And then, of course, YouTube, please subscribe, follow, all that fun stuff. So, but also, if you're not following this guy and watching all of his damn videos, I don't know. Do you even like sports?
Nah. Well, only I live in my sports bubble. So I'm so weird with sports. Like once the Sixers game ends, I'm not watching the NBA. Once the Eagles game ends, I'm not watching the NFL. Like
NFL's a little different for me. Like I'll continue to watch the playoffs, but you're right. There is a huge dip for me in my interest level just because I'm so bummed about not having our team. So there's a definite morning period where I'm just basketball. I'm I don't even think I've watched more than 5 minutes of the NBA Finals this year.
Yeah,
so
I'm way more likely to be watching tape on one of these guys we just talked about than watching the NBA Finals tonight. No question.
I love football, so I'll continue to watch it. But it's there's definitely a less rooting interest for sure because my heart needs to heal.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be back tonight with another show, breaking down Nick Nurse and the Sixers. We will see you then. For Ryan, again, give him a follow on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. I am Dives, Mr. Crockpot. For Ryan, for myself, stay awesome, everyone.